We're going to do our class on something called cultural humility.
We wanted to talk about this topic for a lot of different reasons, and we'll get into what it is in just a second. One of the reasons is that many of you have probably seen that there's a lot of asylum seekers that are coming into the city right now. There are different reactions to asylum seekers and immigrants coming in, and some people are protesting their arrival. Some people are celebrating their arrival and trying to help them. And SMART is definitely sort of in the camp of wanting to do everything we can to help asylum seekers that are coming into the city. And we're firmly committed to anything that would assist in their transition to life here. So thinking about that, we wanted to think about some positive ways of interacting with people from different cultures.
And then another reason that we're interested in this topic, I don't know if you're keeping up with the news, especially from other states, there's been a whole lot of hostility directed at LGBTQ people. A lot of different laws are being made that are going to especially targeted at transgender people that are trying to take away healthcare, just trying to basically almost criminalize people who are transgender. I am transgender. We have had other members of SMART transgender people, and it's a topic that we're interested in a very personal way as well as just in a cultural way. This topic of cultural humility also addresses how you can best interact with people that might identify differently than what you might expect or that what you're accustomed to. Or I don't know if you've heard of the binary, but the binary means that people think of gender just being male, female, but we believe that gender is a spectrum and there are lots of different places you might fall on the gender spectrum. So we want to be respectful of people self-identifying however they do. What we're going to do is present ways of sort of thinking that would include a lot of different cultures and people other than what you might be most familiar with.
What is cultural humility? So this is something that the National Institutes of Health have defined as a lifelong process of self-reflection and self-critique, whereby the individual not only learns about another person's culture, but one starts with an examination of his or her own beliefs and cultural identities. One of the things that is being said here is that, we all are people with complex identities. So we could be many different things. We could be from a different ethnic background. We could be a different sexual orientation than someone. We all have these very rich cultural identities. When we're approaching somebody who we don't know, whose culture we're not so familiar with, you're thinking of that as an opportunity to learn. And you're also thinking about the fact that you yourself have a unique cultural identity that's not the same as everyone else's. So you're coming to any interaction with your unique cultural identity, and you're being met with somebody else with a unique cultural identity that, you might not know about. So you get to listen to them self-defining.
So it's a learning process.
It's an ongoing learning process.
One way of understanding cultural humility is to talk about it in relationship with something called cultural competence. So you might have heard of this term, cultural competence, because it's something that a lot of organizations might use as a training. It's when you're trying to get the rest of people in a group to be able to interact with people of diverse cultures. So you want everyone to be respectful of each other, and you want everyone to understand something about the cultures that other people are coming from, so that they can, engage on a respectful level. Cultural competency means being aware of your own cultural beliefs and values and how these may be different from other cultures, including being able to learn about and honor the different cultures of those you work with. So that sounds like something, it's about inclusion, it's about respecting diversity, but the difference between cultural competence and cultural humility is competence sort of implies that you now know, that now you have all the information you need and you can, engage with all people from different cultures and do just fine. Whereas cultural humility implies that you don't know everything. And so part of it is that everybody's an individual, and you might know certain sort of general things about a different culture, say like a Latino culture. You might have just a basic understanding of certain, practices or things that happen in that culture, but you don't know individually what everyone is experiencing about their own culture. So you're always open to learning. It means that you sort of approach it as if you don't know anything. It's like maybe the person that you are meeting doesn't have that particular thing that you're aware of as part of their experience. And here's an example of maybe how to understand this. Some of you have been here a long time and may have seen Francis and I do Trans 101 sort of training, where we introduce you to a lot of terms and just things that have to do with transgender culture. You might leave that training thinking, now I know all about transgender people, but really all you know is just this very basic thing that we've taught you. And over time, those terms and a lot of experiences with transgender culture change. So the cultural humility approach would be, now I've gotten a little information and now I want to learn more. Like I'm going to meet more trans people and learn more about this culture and be more open to, different terms and whether or not being respectful and all the things that would go with having a good interaction with a person. We're hoping that the video will help you make more sense of it. It's an interesting topic because it really is kind of hard to define in a real concise way.
Yeah, and you'll see that in the video too, of how they're talking about it as well. And Les and I are not experts on this. It's just something that we've sort of come across in our own work to kind of understand other cultures and present stuff about Trans 101. We're going to watch this 30-minute video. The two professors that you'll see in it are the ones who actually came up with this idea of cultural humility.
The video that we're showing you, it's like 11 years old. So you'll notice some things that might seem like dated, like this happened a long time ago. They're going to talk about just different events in the world. We understand that it is an older video, but the concepts are all still the same. So we think that it's still really valuable to listen to. You might, be able to think about it in terms of things happening today.
You'll also see too that it talks a lot about like institutional cultural humility, like so for organizations, like how organizations can practice cultural humility. But that doesn't mean that it's not relevant to you just in your interpersonal reactions too. So you can still use these same principles for that. And also we're thinking about how SMART can institute some of this stuff as well. So how SMART as an organization can think in terms of cultural humility. I wanted to give you the heads up that there is some momentary police violence in this video. There's a depiction of the Rodney King incident. So just so you know that it's in there. So it's a short moment of showing violence. So I hope you enjoyed that video. I hope it was interesting to you. We're going to talk about it a little bit. I was thinking too about, just this concept of continual learning as being really, really central to cultural humility, that you never say, I know everything there is to know about this culture. I know everything. I've mastered this. That it is, you're always sort of practicing an openness to learning.
It is a learning process. Firstly, to be able to, like they talked about, self-examination, like you approach things being very much aware that you have preconceived ideas that you're trying to not let dominate the way you can perceive someone else. Let them tell you who they are instead of you projecting who you think they are.
That's a really good point. One woman in particular in the video was talking about this being as like a kind of an approach to, or a philosophy to how you approach life, right? And how you approach interacting with other people in the world. And I think existential makes a lot of sense in that.
Also, we were just kind of assuming that everyone knew what the Rodney King incident was, but if you were thinking about it in more current terms, it would be something like George Floyd, something that really did sort of galvanize everyone to think about something like police brutality or injustice, and that people responded in a really big way to say what they felt.
And it is one of those things, like as a philosophy and like a lifelong learning thing, it's like it makes sense that it's kind of still relevant because
it's adaptable. It's adaptable to a lot of things. And like we said, it was adaptable to personal interactions as well as institutional interaction. It's something just to ponder. We just want everyone to sort of consider some of the concepts and how you might integrate it into your way of interacting with people you don't know. And not even necessarily culturally, just people you don't know.
because everybody has,
everyone's
different. Yeah.
has their culture.
Mhm.
I mean, it might not be something visible.
Yeah. A lot of people can have different ways of doing things in their culture, like cooking a dish. Like, if you have a real specific way of making, a dish that is central to your culture, somebody else in your culture might like be very married to the idea of how they make that. You could think this is the way you make it. And somebody else could say, oh no, this is the way I make it. And so you're open to that conversation.
To sort of have a positive feeling about they're offering something.
Yeah.
They're not like trying to take something from you by not, fitting your mold, but they're offering something new.
Yeah. And they're broadening your sense of what culture can be. Like that is a enriching thing for you. It's not taking anything away from your cultural identity.
Being flexible.
Being flexible. That's a real good way of putting it.